Chris Wilson, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, Elliot. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is truly mine. I was just saying to you before we got started that I wasn't too familiar with your name or your work before I was fortunately led to being in contact with you. But since being in contact with you, I've been really fascinated by the work that you've done. I feel that there's going to be a lot of value that the listeners are going to take away as well. But before we do dive into that, can you give us a little bit of context about who is Chris Wilson and what it is that you do?
Certainly, yeah. I'm the VP of content here at criticalbench.com. We are an online fitness and health publishing company. We've been around for almost 25 years now, since 1999. And I've been in this position or a similar position for the better part of 10 years now. I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary of joining the team and working for a childhood friend of mine. So the owner, founder of the business, we went to high school together and played high school football together and are still good friends and have maintained a friendship, even though we have a professional relationship as well. And I oversee all content here at Critical Bench. So we are really in the business of creating fitness and health related programming that people can easily infuse or insert into their lives to live healthier lives, pain-free lives, feel stronger, feel more, alive, if you will. And we can go down those roads of topics based on the various things that we've created over the years. But what we have global reach, and it's a feel good type position that I'm in, where I'm creating content that I really enjoy making, knowing that it's going to make someone else's life better on the other side. There's no gimmicks to our stuff. Yes, we are an email marketing business because we reach people 100% online, but we create really good, very affordable programs that people, like I said, can easily do in 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, and get great results. So I enjoy my job. Hey, that's different.
Absolutely is. And it's incredible work as well because of the health and fitness industry. If something stays around for 3 or 4 years, that's a pretty long lifespan. So for you guys to be doing this for the past 25 years or so is pretty damn incredible. And also in kind of a traditional format as well. When I was looking at your website, it reminds me of being on bodybuilding.com in the early 2000s, for example. I hope you take that as a compliment, but it has that very nice old school feel to it. So I want to dive into that a little bit more in just a moment, but I want to hear, Chris, where your personal journey with health and fitness started as well. What led you down this path to thinking, I'm going to go down this route as a career, and where did it all begin for you?
Good question. I'm going to get there in 2 seconds, but what you've noticed is our archaic looking website, and that's fine. Because it's actually going through a full remodel, full redesign process right now.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, because honestly, in the world of online, the draw has not been our website for many years, probably since I started here. It's always been about creating a certain landing page, right, or a sales letter or a VSL, video sales letter, which is basically an infomercial that leads people to a product or program. And those are the landing spots, those are the end, that's where you want to get the eyeballs. And so we've gone really heavy and put all of our energy into creating all of these various, what they call funnels, for various products and programs. And those are beautifully constructed and made. And that's what we send all of our email traffic to, and as well as other online affiliates. So that's the bread and butter. The website has been ignored and neglected long enough, and we realize in order to have that kind of even level of how people perceive us as Critical Bench, if we're going to be consistent, in other words, across the board with YouTube and all of these great product pages and stuff, we need to show up with a better platform as home base, really. And so that's going through a massive thing. We're going to have a great e-commerce experience for people as well. So Okay, getting back to what you asked was where are my roots? Like, why am I interested in fitness and health? I was the youngest of three boys. In fact, my older brothers were identical twins, and I grew up just loving activity, sports, being strong, being a boy, being tough. I had a great neighborhood. I was friendly with, everybody on our street for the most part. I couldn't wait to wake up on Saturday mornings and go off on my bike. I would just sit there. I was laughing just the other day talking to somebody about the rule. It was kind of like I don't know if it was a spoken rule or just kind of as a kid, you kind of knew I probably shouldn't leave my house before sun up. So I would like sit in my garage staring at my bike, like wiping it and cleaning it, and just couldn't wait to get outside on my bike and just go off on my own and do my thing. And I hope that has not been lost on today's technological world, where the fascination that little boys and little girls would have with like just the freedom of being out on their own bike, like doing their thing. But I had that in the 80s, and I loved it. And so that's kind of, I would say, where it started. But then I had these great role models in my older brothers who were just 5 years older than me and big and strong and tough, and nobody messed with the Wilsons. I just wanted to be just like them, like a lot of kids. They have someone hopefully to look up to, and I just wanted to be just like my older brothers. And they were just wonderful, great older brothers. And so I was heavily into sports, soccer, at an early age, also known as football on your side of the map, right? But I really got into football and baseball were kind of my two real passions growing up. And football, I stayed in all the way through high school and played at a high level and championship level. And then baseball, I now coach for my son, which is so much fun. But once I got that feedback, I guess you could say, from performing and running and playing and showing my toughness and my grit and my strength, I really enjoyed that. And I also felt kind of this pull to it because that's what my brothers were doing. So I have to do it too. But I just loved competition. My whole life, I've always really enjoyed competition, no matter what it was, whether it was playing a game of ping pong, throwing darts, or playing basketball, or playing football or baseball. I just have always enjoyed competition and feeling strong.
Amazing. And then that journey of exploring sports, being stronger, being inspired by your brothers led you down the path to becoming the VP of content at Critical Bench. What's the gap in between from there to there?
Yeah, right. Well, my college, when I went to university, I graduated thinking I was going to be in the TV or radio business. I was a communications major, and and so I kind of am
That's true. Yeah.
at this stage, right? I host and manage a podcast. I'm in thousands of YouTube videos and products and video content. And so I have utilized those skills and things that I learned in college. But coming out of college, I kind of got wrapped up in that world of fitness and health, working for a world gym chain up in the Northeast, up in Connecticut, and just I was so in love with the gym environment. I was in love with lifting weights and the energy in the clubs that I worked in, and also the contact with others, helping them, people who were in need of a trainer or a coach, and looking to me maybe for guidance. And so I'm like, wow, I already love this. I can get paid helping others love it too, and get results from it. So yeah, I'm in. I'll do that. And so I started training a lot of people and getting clients through the World Gym, through other businesses that were working within the gym, and then came upon what came to be a mentor of mine. His name is Ben Prentice. I've interviewed him on our podcast, the Strong by Design podcast, before. He was really I would say, my introduction into the world of like professional trainers, coaches. I worked in an elite private facility, studio, you could call it, back in 2000 when it was still kind of a newer thing to pay a lot of money for, at the time it was thousands of dollars, right, to be a member. I remember people would walk in, they'd go, "Hey, I want to join. What's your rate? Like, what's your monthly rate?" And we're like, "Well, we're not a gym. You'd actually have to buy sessions with a trainer." And they were like, "Oh, well, that's weird." And then you get other people that are like, "Oh, that sounds good. So I only come here and I work with somebody one on one." And they're like, "Yeah, you get one on one attention for a full hour, as many days a week as you want to come. And we will create the programming for you, and you get and people are loving that who could afford it. And that's where I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I was surrounded by other very smart, high level trainers, and was exposed to other just really, really good people that would kind of come through our facility, passing through kind of, if you will, other people, other experts in the industry. And so it was a great launching pad for me into this world. And it never left. I mean, since then, I've always been in this industry on some level, whether I was just training, at one point I was a general manager for a fitness and tennis center for several years, and I oversaw all the personal training that happened. And then eventually it just led to me working fully online after 15 years of working with clients face to face.
Yeah, it's an incredible journey, and it's funny in a way that it seems kind of similar to mine as well. I spent some time in a commercial gym and then went to a private training facility, worked with a ton of insanely good professionals, and then that inspired me massively from all the learnings I gained from them. And then I wound up online as well. So there's definitely some similarities there. So it's an inspirational path, and I can definitely relate to that, which is incredible as well. But obviously your career spans far longer than mine does at this stage.
I'm very old.
You must have seen so many things come and go in the industry. And I'm curious to hear, like, what do you see health and fitness as these days compared to what it was when you first started? Are there some, major similarities if the fundamentals stood the test of time, or is it a completely different world to when you got started?
Wow. There's so many ways to answer that question. I mean, yeah, I started training people before cell phones.
Yeah, that's insane.
I mean, literally, I remember getting my first cell phone and thinking, how cool am I that I have a phone clipped on my belt? I just felt like I was like super awesome and special, right? This is like 1998, 99, and, kind of a big phone. I forget what brand it was, looked like kind of like a small, like cordless phone is basically what it looked like. That was like on my hip. And I mean, yeah, it's back in this day. This is before any social media, right? So this is before the Instagram phenomenon. This is before MySpace even started. This is before there was YouTube. This is back when if you bought something online, or it wasn't even online, it was like a mail order situation most times, right? You saw an infomercial late at night and you sent in you bought something through mail. Like, so, it's just like a different time. As I said, there was just a lot of big gyms back in the day, the Gold's gyms and the World Gym and those types of fitness environments, but there was no box gyms. There was maybe that upstart of some private studios like what I got to work in called Body Tuning in Darien, Connecticut, and opened up January of 2000. And there wasn't a lot of those going around, but they were here and there in more affluent areas, I would say, or higher level people that were looking for that type of attention. But most people did not want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in a 3 to 6 month period to get fit. People, were just looking to have like a membership to an affordable place. And nowadays, I mean, you can't drive a mile down a road without passing some type of box gym or a franchise of some sort. And then this explosion of home gyms. No one had I mean, very few people maybe had a few weights that to tinker around with at their house, but didn't have these full scale, amazing squat racks and 1,000 pounds of weight in their own garage. That wasn't really normal back then either. So we've seen this massive shift. People realizing the need, the importance, I think, of strength and of focus on physical fitness. But but then it's also gone down. I don't know. It's gone down some unhealthy routes too, with the type of exposure and platforms that people can create for themselves, where it's so much based on the aesthetic and the looks rather than the function and really what it's doing for you long term, because the looks are going to fade. I'm sorry to tell you, listeners, I don't look as nearly as good as I did 20 years ago, I'll tell you that much, but I've accepted it. And I'm a husband and a daddy, and I have more important things to do than take selfies and special videos of myself all day long just to post for confirmation of how great I look. I don't know. Listen, dude. I'm just speaking truthfully. I'm kind of over the fascination that people have with the fake bodies that we all see in every day we scroll.
Yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on that a little bit more because, of course, you're now all online based. A lot of the work that you do is on social media, whether it's your Instagram, your YouTube, and your podcast. So there's obviously a lot of utility to social media. So where do you find the blend between terrible stuff that's coming on and the thing that's leading people in a direction that's not healthy versus the ability to spread information far and wide that's actually really practical, that helps people far more than, like you said, when they first started with you, they could only have a personal trainer or go to a gym. They wouldn't have the same level of information they have access to now. So how do we balance the two, or how are you balancing the two at the company you're with?
Yeah, great questions. Information overload right now for sure, right? Everybody's an expert if they just follow one person or do a little bit of reading online. Everything's so accessible nowadays that, and I'm sorry, you might be an internet expert, but you're certainly not an experienced expert. Expertise really only comes from literally tens of thousands of hours of doing something. And so I can call myself an expert in this field because I've trained people for tens of thousands of hours. And that's prior to me working online for the last 10 years. So I think there's such an unhealthy aspect to the online world, right? I mean, and we could go on and on about this, but it's because the fascination I think that people have with the human body, right? And what the human body is capable of doing and looking like, and transformations, right? I mean, I love and I applaud when I see someone who's gone from maybe 50 to 100 pounds obese to like very fit. How did they do it? And there's lots of different ways to get there. Did they do it a healthy way? Did they do it in an unhealthy way? I still appreciate the hard work and the dedication it took to get there. And we've had people like that on our podcast and talk with those types of people. But it's the people I think that have the big following that are almost to the point of an unhealthy approach to fitness and health, where they're living in this sub 10% body fat environment, probably some cosmetic stuff going on, most likely some type of synthetic, drug use going on as well. And then kind of this, oh, look at me, I'm doing this naturally, and that whole thing. And obviously, a lot of these people have come out as frauds in recent years, and it's just so evident. I am Lifetime Natural, never done anything, but I don't think most people would accuse me of doing it because I'm also not taking photos of myself at 6% body fat, turned sideways with a tan, with the right lighting and everything else, like proclaiming that I've done this naturally and this is what I look like every day. It's such a facade. It's so fake. I've been around people that are competitive in this world, in the world of figure competition or bodybuilding. They don't look like that every single day. It's extraordinarily difficult to look like that for one day. And I'll also add, it's It also makes you an extremely selfish person to be so focused on yourself that you probably aren't good in your relationships. If you're a parent, you're probably not a great parent. I'm sorry, I'm just saying in the extreme cases. You are so focused on your own diet, on how you look, on how you time everything, you know, and you cannot give enough energy to other people if you're that much focused on your own your own appearance. How are you going to be good for other people when all you think about and all you focus on from the moment you rise to the moment you go to bed is how you look and how you're going to be perceived? And that has gotten so out of whack, I think, for people. It's crazy, and I might be pissing somebody off right now, but I'm just telling it. I think as a 47-year-old guy who's been around this world long enough to see the impact it has, typically not for the good. If you're that dedicated and focused on that one thing, other things in your life are probably falling apart. It's very very hard to maintain a super high level when it comes to looks.
Yeah, I definitely share your thoughts there. And it's a double edged sword, I think, social media in that sense, because of those who give out that type of information tend to have the largest audiences as well. So then the challenge for real information to come through, but in a way that's not packaged in this unbelievably unhealthy way, if you know what's actually going on beneath the surface, becomes really, really demanding as well. And obviously, there's an attraction to that too. I know that in my early 20s and my late teens, I was obsessed with the way that my body looked for some time. Not nearly as much these days at all, to be completely honest, but we all go there. So I think the big question I have to you is, how can we be attracted to live that healthy lifestyle, like a truly healthy lifestyle, having maybe an eye on our aesthetics to a degree, but really understanding the fundamental principles of what health and fitness truly is?
As long as I think aesthetics is a little bit more of a side effect than the main thing. I very much like you. What did I care about in my late teens and early 20s? I cared about looking good, being strong, and hooking up. That's what a lot of guys are thinking. Well, how can I make some more money? Because most of us are poor coming out of college or during college years, late teens and early 20s. So I need money because I need money to be able to go out. And if I'm going to go out, I want to look good, right? And you live that life for several years into your middle or late 20s, and then hopefully you meet somebody nice, and you want to just stick to that one person and make a life, and which is what happened for me. Ultimately, I think what works for most of us is something that's more manageable and long term. So there's nothing wrong. Listen, there's nothing wrong with going to some like crazy elimination diet or something super restrictive if you have a wedding that you want to look good for, right? Or if you have a certain an event coming and you need kind of that quick fix approach. You have 2, 3, 4 months to make a change to look a certain way. The trouble is that's what's sold to a lot of us as like sustainable, and it's not. I think any kind of elimination diet, anything that's highly restrictive, is not sustainable, and you're just going to be frustrated after, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however long you're able to last with that diet or with that approach. I think you need to be open to different forms of activity and exercise. I think you need, to consider them hobbies or lifestyle, things that you really enjoy doing that are satisfying to you, you look forward to. It's the only way you're going to continue doing them. Anything that you are, and it's okay to, sometimes it's good if something does make you a little uncomfortable. Like I do yoga out here in our gym once a week, and I love and I hate it. It's the hardest thing I do every week. I would never do it by myself because I just have no desire. But an instructor, we have a yoga teacher come, and she puts us through great routines, and I know I need it, but I don't really want to do it but I'm grateful when it's over. So, But so that's what I mean about being at least open to things that maybe you don't love but you know are good for you, but at least having the accountability of having a coach come and put us through that. Now, in terms of weightlifting and stuff, I don't even have to think about it. I love that stuff so much. I have ever since I was 10 years old. I go out into our gym and I work out multiple days a week. So strength training, easy, comes easy. That box has been checked my whole life. I don't struggle there. Where I do struggle, however, is diet and nutrition. And I think a lot of people do. It's not that I struggle about what I should be eating, what I know is good, what I know is bad. I can make those judgments very easily, very quickly. For me, it's typically a quantity issue or a tracking issue. So I'm either overeating, so calorically I'm just taking in more than I need based on my needs of the day, uh, and then if I'm not writing it down or if I'm not tracking, I have no idea where I'm at. So I'm just kind of going off hunger and appetite rather than off of like, well, you've eaten this, and this. So if you're still hungry, this is kind of what you have left to play around with. And it's not so much I'm counting calories and macro, it's, but I think you have to have a loose idea. Yeah, I think you have to have a general idea. And most of us overeat the foods that we don't need as much. We overeat the carbs and we overeat the fats and we undereat the protein. I would say that's most people's problem. And if we went out of our way to really make sure we're checking the protein box, because protein will be the most satiating and the hardest to overeat. But if you try to, usually you can fill yourself up well enough where you don't overeat the other things. And when I was tracking my protein intake and really having a good understanding of how much protein I was eating in a given day, I was getting great results. I was not overeating the fats. I was not overeating the carbohydrates. I leaned out. My whole body changed, and I really need to get back to that. I want to do that with my wife. Actually, we've been talking about it, and I've been hesitant on pulling the trigger on kind of getting back to that because I'm about 15 pounds more than I want to be right now, and I know if I just dial it up a notch by just tracking and knowing what I'm eating and knowing I'm hitting my protein for the day, I'm going to get exactly what I need. And I'm going to look exactly how I want to look.
Absolutely. And there's going to be many people thinking now, you're in your late 40s, you're probably in decent shape compared to the quote unquote average person. And you just told me that you haven't been able to pull the trigger quite yet. What do you think your motivation will be to do that? And what keeps you inspired to be that way as well? You know you're 15 pounds overweight because you have experience with health and fitness, but no one else knows you're 15 pounds overweight and you probably still look in amazing shape. So I'm curious to get your idea of why you're still motivated to do that, coming into your 50s where a lot of people are like, it's time to ease off the gas. I'm still training 4 times a week. It's good enough.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like I go through these moments and we all do. Everything's cyclical, I think, in life, right? I mean, all things are really, right? Nature is cyclical. I think we are cyclical in terms of we have moments in our life where we get more comfortable. And then we have moments in our life where maybe there's a pain point or there's an experience that we have that really resonates with us and it is kind of a starting point or an ignition point for us for change. And then we can ride that wave typically only for so long before we start to hit again a point of comfort and then we kind of lack that same enthusiasm. And so I'm just on that. I'm on that. I rode a wave of great motivation and tracking for like all of 2021. And then I would say it really carried me into 2022 quite nicely. And then I would say by like summer of 2022, I think I hit a moment of just like kind of starting to get more comfortable again in things and lacking attention and letting myself go a little bit more, like having a little bit more food or having an extra reward meal or an extra dessert here and there. And those things do add up. And so my wife and I have been talking about this for last few months. She just finished nursing school not that long ago. And so it was kind of a challenging period in our lives while she was finishing up nurse. She's transitioning out of veterinary medicine into human medicine. And but now we're back at a point, I think, where both of us really can jump back in and kind of be on the same. That's a big thing, right? With your partner, with your spouse, can you do it together? And that really helps. That's such a big thing, right? Because if the husband's doing it but the wife isn't, or vice versa, that can really it can really be harder. It can really be a juggling act, I think. But if you're both on board with something together and getting the results, there's some sustainability there. And again, it just comes down to preparation, kind of cooking for the week on the weekend, and setting up your meals in advance. Good foods I enjoy eating. I mean, that's the whole thing, man. You don't have to be super restrictive to get good results. You don't have to cut out certain foods to get good results. You just have to have a plan. And then you have to just implement that consistently. And I think that's people struggle with being consistent and being disciplined with things, right? It's hard to, make yourself go to bed at a good time so you get good sleep, but then get up early enough where, you maybe have some time to play with in the morning. And it takes a lot of discipline to prep that food, but when you do, it makes life easier. It's like just cook a little bit extra on the weekends, but then Monday through Friday, now all your meals are kind of like structured and set up for you if you've cooked enough and put some stuff in containers. And there's a lot there in order to get started. I think with some of these things, it can kind of be scary, but then once you're in it, you're like, wow, man. It's like freedom through structure. People think structure creates less freedom. It's actually the opposite. It really provides a lot of freedom once it's established and you walk in it for a little while.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And my girlfriend and I are going for a similar phase at the moment. She's a little bit more interested in dropping some body fat at the moment than I am. But I was like, I'm going to be with you because of, it doesn't hurt me to tighten up a little bit more. It never does. And also, I know the power of doing it as a pair. And you're absolutely right. Like, once we said, okay, we're going to have this meal for the evening, that was one of the biggest things because then there wasn't any temptation to have anything else. The next aspect was saying, okay, we have this dedicated workout time. Let's commit to this. Let's follow through on this. And as long as we both place those boundaries to not let the work run over, all of a sudden, like you said, you become free because then you get to your weekend. You're like, well, do we want to be a little bit more flexible? And all of a sudden, rather than that guilt or that voice in the back of your head saying, you've had the pizza already twice this week, so do you really want to go again? It's, more a sense of saying, well, amazing, we're on track with our goals. We can be a little bit more flexible if we need to, but also if we want to keep taking advantage and capitalize on our results, we're just going to keep going. And like you said, once you're in it and you see the rewards from it, you're free. You're living and breathing in the body that you want to. You're feeling good in the process. So I love that as well. And as I transition on to the next question regarding your family, I'm curious on what knock-on effect that has to your children as well.
Oh yeah, totally. Huge impact on the kids. And that's always in the back of my mind. I think when it comes to like where I'm at physically, where my wife's at, is like, how do our kids perceive us? How do they perceive health? How do they perceive like aging well, right? My wife and I are about the same age, and I'd like to think I don't look my age, and I haven't really gone gray yet, so that always helps, right? But I want my son and my daughter to see me as a healthy, energetic father, that I'm capable of let's say of all things, but I'm capable of just about anything physically. I want them to see me as the provider, the protector, strong, physically capable, but also just because that's the standard I've set for myself in my life, and I certainly want that to rub off on them and how they see the value of fitness and physical activity at being just such a positive, right? In terms of living a longer, more fulfilling life, I don't see myself as a 70-year-old just sitting on the sofa like a lump. I see myself as a 70-year-old with grandkids still like out there moving, chasing after them, getting down on the ground with them and doing stuff. So that is in my mind. And I want them to have a love and an appreciation for what the body can do. And as I said, I coach my son in baseball, and he's just a terrific athlete, super fit. I am in the process of getting him this summer. I really want to start doing some strength training, for strength training for an 11-year-old. Just body weight stuff, jumping, agility work, things that he can do to help maintain his competitive advantage. And my daughter, she's a dancer. She loves just dancing and performing and stuff. And so I love to go and watch her and take videos and pictures and support her in that, and how great of an activity that is for anybody to do. And but that's her love, her passion, and I mean she can do that for the rest of her life. And again, it goes right down to also back to food, where I want them, their lunches are packed by me or mommy, and those are made with love. There's fresh sliced apples and cucumbers and carrots and sandwiches, and for the most part healthy food options there for them. So trying to create that palette that healthy foods should be kind of the focus. Protein and fruits and vegetables. Protein, fruits and vegetables, and there's plenty of options out there that taste really good and make you smile and make you happy while you're eating them. And I think getting away, the kids know it's great. Like the kids know, like, oh, like we got to stop and pick food up. So they're like, well, we probably shouldn't do McDonald's because that's not really good for you, even though it tastes good, but that's not really good for you. So maybe we should just get like Subway sandwich, or different options that aren't always fast food. So we do that very rarely. Sure, we get pizza and stuff here now and again, but I like them to at least be educated to the point where they know, like, every once in a while it's okay to kind of just have a throwaway meal, something that tastes good, but it's really not nutritionally dense or doing anything for you on the nutrition side. But also to not feel I don't want them to feel restricted either. I think there's a balance to it, right? I don't want to sabotage them. I don't want to restrict things so much or make things evil to the point where now they're extra interested, right? Because that's how kids operate. If you say things are off limits, then they want it more. It's that healthy balance with the kids.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think education, but also allowing them to make their own choices is probably the key to that balance as well. I'm not a father yet, but I'm definitely taking many, many notes. And from what I've gathered from the information of the parents that I've asked, it seems to be that way. And like you said, you don't want to be over restricted because they will go the opposite way. And I think we all have friends, or we've been that person who does go down the route of what we can access when we're a child, but also we don't want to scare them into thinking, okay, well, this is all bad. So I think it's just a healthy understanding of like, okay, well, a little bit of this is from time to time is okay, but at the same time, we've got to understand that if we do that on a very long-term and consistent basis, it's going to have some consequences as well. So I think that place in the middle is probably the best place to be completely honest. And I want to ask a question as we're on family life and transition into faith, because it's not a question I've actually asked that many people on this podcast about, especially when we're on the topic of health and fitness. So what role does faith play in your life, especially when it comes to health and fitness and fatherhood and family?
That's great. I appreciate you asking. It's certainly, we are a fitness and health publishing company, and the content we create, the products and programming that we put out into the world is for all people. Doesn't matter your background or anything, but we also happen to be a business that's operated and managed and founded by Christians. And so we like to infuse that mentality or those core values into everything that we do. So we have more of a welcoming, very, kind of positive environment, not vulgar, not derogatory. And if you look at our content, I think you feel that. Like, we don't swear in our YouTube content. We have 5,000 videos on YouTube, and we bleep, like, we don't see the S word, you know what I mean? Like, so like we go out of our way, I think, to be accessible for people of all ages. So if kids happen to land on our content, there's nothing there that's, not kid friendly, even though it's not made for kids necessarily. In our podcast, we love to talk all things body, mind, and spirit. Because again, it's just part of who we are. There's so much overlap in our lives, right? It's you can't really just separate these things. It's who you are. They all come together. Your spirit and your mindset dictate what you do with your body, right? And then, what you're doing with your body has an impact on your mind and how you think, right? Your toughness and your how you see the world and perspective on things. And but we are grounded very much in our Christian faith. In fact, it's one of our 7 core values. We have 7 core values here that I talk about all the time on our podcast, of course, but these 7 core values are what we use in our business with all decisions, whether it's hiring someone, taking on a new project, a partnership, a product that we're going to create. And the 7 things are passion, integrity, gratitude, service, positive attitude, decisiveness, and faith. And we believe that that you are strong by design, and you're created in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit, and that all of these things are intertwined. It's really, again, nearly impossible to separate them. And there's also massive overlap with what these 7 core values, when you define them, you see that they all kind of bleed into each other. You don't have to be a Christian to enjoy our content, and we're not out there necessarily trying to convert people. However, I think if people are exposed to our stuff on a regular basis, they might feel, these people feel different to me. Like their content feels different to me. There's a vibe there. There's something I can't put my finger on. I don't know what it is in their fitness and health content. But I think that underlying theme is our spiritual lives. We strive to be really good men and women, have good marriages, raise our kids the right way, support each other here in the workplace, respect each other. There's a vibe when you walk in our building that just feels different, and people recognize that who aren't part of our team but come in. They're like, man, I really loved. We invite people, friends, family, and new acquaintances to come and work out with us here in our private facility. And here we call it the Critical Bench Compound. It's a 4,000 square foot gym that's ours. It's private, and but we use it as our production studio. But it's a regular gym really that has everything you could possibly need in it. But we want that perception in our material. It just feels different. It feels inspired. It feels founded in something, and it is. It's founded on our Christian beliefs. And I've been, ever since I was a little kid. I grew up in the church. Had a great church life. Great people. I was in youth groups, and we went on trips and to help people and do things for people. And I have nothing but really positive memories. I mean, it's the church I was baptized in. It was the church where my dad got remarried in. It was the church where we had my services for my brother who passed and my dad who passed. And so I have a lot of memories over, from the middle 70s all the way through the 2010s. At this church up in Connecticut, where I no longer live in Connecticut, I'm in Florida, but just lots of, I've had a strong faith in God ever since I was a little kid, and there's certainly been moments where I was distant and not focused at all on God, and that would be late teens and 20s, when I think a lot of people walk away kind of from their faith. They're not grounded in much. Again, everything's about me. A very selfish time, how I look, who I can hook up with, right? How much money can I make? That's just kind of a phase that I think a lot of us go through, certainly men, I can speak for. And then I think we typically find ourselves unfulfilled living that type of life. Certainly, I hope by the time maybe you're 30, you realize there's a lot more to life than those things, those superficial things, those things that don't ground you in anything. That don't really satisfy you ultimately, that don't provide any real purpose. And I've really found that these core values that we live by here in the business, I've kind of adopted as my own set of personal core values. And it feels good that I'm living out my passion, doing something I love that impacts other people all over the world that I'll never meet. But I'm bold enough to share my faith and my walk, my journey, in various ways, whether it's on our podcast or in our material and the way we conduct ourselves. And so that's a very long answer to your question.
Hey, no, it was exactly what I wanted from that question. And I think it's very unique because it's easy to weave spirituality and religion into spiritual and religious subjects, but health and fitness might not be. I mean, health for sure, especially when you're looking at mental well-being, it's definitely a tie-in there, but physical well-being, you probably don't see the link so much. So I think it's a very unique thing that you guys are doing, and that's why I wanted to touch on it, because of, like you said, there's this intangible feeling of why your content feels a little bit different, why when people visit your compound it feels a little bit different, and it's worth understanding why. And I'm sure that will interest a lot of people, especially those who have maybe been brought up with faith and maybe want to get back in touch with it, or those who maybe have not had exposure at all. So I like that a lot. And one thing you did touch on there was purpose, finding purpose a little bit later in your 20s, hopefully working out that the superficial things don't mean quite as much as we want to. And you mentioned, when I saw a little write-up about yourself, that without passion and purpose, life is meaningless. Can you run me through that a little bit more? And also, do you think it explains the reason why a lot of us, when we're a little bit younger, seem quite lost? There's a lot more anxiety, there's a lot more mental health problems, depression. Do you think a large factor of that is because people haven't found their passion and purpose?
People don't have peace. I think without passion and purpose, there's no peace. I think there's a lot of lost people right now. They're seeking things in this world that are not going to ever be ultimately satisfying to them. I truly believe that you need to spend time reflecting on this. And again, this is something I think that happens a little later in life. There are, I think, younger people in their 20s and 30s that are certainly capable of experiencing this or spending time thinking about such things. But certainly in the last decade, and really even more so in the last 5 years, I've lost my brother to brain cancer. I've lost my mother to cancer, all in the last 10 years. And when you have loss, you start thinking about things differently. You start seeing the world a little bit different, especially when it's people that you're very close to. And I think that can do one of two things for a lot of people. It can either push you away from God, or it can pull you closer to God. And I'm very fortunate that the community I've been in here at work, it's kind of roped me in, and I formed a stronger connection and closeness to God in terms of just being in prayer and looking for answers and looking for truth. And there's no better place for truth than in the Bible, and living more biblically. I do feel like there's a peace that you get when you start living that way, where it's just unattainable when you make money and you make possessions and you make your house and your car and your job. When you make your identity is in all of these things, these idols, and in your relationship, say maybe you're dating somebody, or and that's how you define yourself. You define yourself by the person you're with, or by the things that you have, or by the place that you live. Ultimately, I don't think that's not where you find purpose. As I said at the start, the passion and the purpose, I think that's what leads you to peace. And I think there's so much unsettled. There's so many unsettled people, so many hearts and minds that are unsettled. They're not living in peace. They're living in the moment. They're living in the day-to-day of life, which a lot of people, again, don't like the work that they do. They're not passionate about it. It's a paycheck. It's just income, and that's not a good place to live in on a regular basis. They're maybe not loving the relationship that they've been in for many years. They're not loving being a parent, and when you add all those things up, you're gonna have a society filled with anxiety, depression, stress, right? Fear and anger. And that's not a good place to live on a daily basis. So I live in gratitude, because when I start to think about all the blessings that I've had in my life, all the people that have been blessings in my life, and if it wasn't for the ripple effect, that when you take all of them collectively and look at, like, it's all I am is just a collection of all these relationships. and conversations that I've had over the last few decades. It's the iron sharpens iron thing, you know. It's like I'm constantly working on myself and growing from 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 the relationships I've had and the experiences I've had and the conversations that I've had. And I think it's keeping me on this narrow path that I'm on. Not saying that I'm perfect by any means. I'm not. I'm far from it. But I'm aware of my imperfections, I think to a higher degree than I used to be. And I'm constantly in search of how can I improve? How can I make myself better? How can I be a better, stronger role model? How can I be a better dad, a better husband? But I mean, I could have my wife on here for an hour. She could tell you all the things that I screw up and that I'm not good at.
Yeah, it does sound like your journey is a constant state of improvement. And as you mentioned, it's just a case of looking at those things, being honest with yourself, connecting with the things that make you you, the gratitude for your community. And I like the way you sum that up, and you being just a collection of your experiences and those you've had conversations with. Really nice way to put it. And it's very, very enlightening piece of information once you realize that. And you might think that, well, if I'm not having that great of a human experience so far, maybe I need to improve the quality of my experiences and the people I'm around. And I need to also make
That's
sure
right.
that I'm giving the same value to the people I'm communicating with as well, right? Because the community goes both ways. People will have a large impact on our life, but we also want to have a large impact on theirs as much as we can. And that does lead me on to my final couple of questions. And I want to ask you, Chris, what is the impact that you want to have on the world with the work that you do?
I think my hope for the work that we do, that I do, that I'm a part of, is that people really feel a strong sense of service from us, that we really care about people, about really helping people, authentically trying to fix or change or repair, enhance. You can come up with a whole collection of words there, that our hearts are in it, that we're not just in this for money. We're not a flash in the pan operation. Thus, here we've been around since 1999. So obviously we're not, we're grinders, and we stay with things. I mean, there was a period of time where, as VP of content, I was overseeing all of our YouTube content, as I still do, and we had 7 years in a row of one video getting uploaded a day on our main YouTube channel. And so you want consistency, you want grind, you want to see growth, stay committed to something long term. Our hearts are in the right place. We're detail oriented, but not to the point of where we need something to be perfect to put it out into the world. We want to help people, but we're decisive and we move fast on the decisiveness is one of our core values here. So that means that we're action takers. So we like to take action on things and get it out there so that we can help improve other people's lives, but doing it the right way. And again, so I want my impact and my legacy to be, this is a man that really loved and was committed and passionate about longevity and about quality of life, and he took that passion and he took his enthusiasm and his experience, and he created content that helped improve the lives of thousands of people, all walks of life from all over the globe. So I mean, that's what I would like people to think of when they think of me, not just. And I was part of a team too that did it. It wasn't just me by any means. There's so many other people involved, but that I was part of a process in creating really good, lasting content that it can improve and change lives.
Yeah, I think you are certainly fulfilling that mission. And I know that you and your team are only just getting started, even though you're 20 years in. So if
Right.
this conversation today has sparked a lot of interest from my listeners, which I have no doubt it has, where's the best place that they can find you? At Critical Bench is Stronger by Design.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, I mean, one great place, obviously, I've mentioned YouTube many times just because we've put so much content out there over the years. We have 3 YouTube channels. One of them is the main Critical Bench channel. So if you're on YouTube at all, just type Critical Bench. You'll have access to thousands we're probably up there when it comes to fitness and health organizations that put out YouTube videos. We got to be up there when it comes to number of videos. So we're very active on the main channel as well as the compound channel, which is our shorts channel. It's now just gets short content that goes up there. But you can also type in Strong by Design podcast. And we have a third channel just for the podcast. So that would be one great place to start. I would say another good option, if you just want to go to even just to Instagram and just search at The Critical Bench is our handle. So you have access to all kinds of great content there on Instagram at The Critical Bench. We have a nice following, or certainly on Facebook. I mean, we're almost at, I think, 1 million followers on Facebook as well. Over 1 million on our YouTube. And we've just been so blessed, really, honestly. It's been a real good collective effort over a period of years. Like we didn't just wake up one day and then boom, like had some big numbers. Like this has taken a long time to get there. And I would say that those are the best platforms. We have so many projects and programs I could get into, but I mean, I think if they start, they'll find those things just by, because we have so many free resources on YouTube, especially, that lead to all of our products and programming.
Amazing. I'll put all those links in the description below. But Chris, this has been an incredible conversation. It's been a pleasure to meet you and speak with you. And I'm sure that this will just be the start, and we'll be going for round 2 and round 3 in the future as well.
I'm always available for it. I love it. Really enjoyed talking with you as well, Elliot. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chris.